Welcome back, listeners, to the Brighter Side of Blue, our worldwide podcast coming to you almost live from the Columbo's Cafe and Tavern studio down in Dogtown, South St. Louis. I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
Producer John.
Producer John is in the house. We are now expanding our listener base to Jamaica.
Yep.
I'm
surprised we didn't have that before, though.
I thought we would have had Jamaica. We know a lot of people that go down there.
Shit. Hot two. Spit on that thing.
So let's get right into that.
No. I just... Sorry. Go ahead.
Don't even start.
Maybe we might as well. We're going to talk about it. JJ's absolutely infatuated with this thing.
Tell them what's going on. I had a whole list of things to do.
So yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. But we got a big announcement too. We got a new sponsor, so that's going to be coming up. But
that's on my list before you go down.
But JJ already he couldn't hold himself. This is how infatuated he is with this.
It's gone viral.
What do you got?
Gone viral.
I think we should make the listeners wait a little bit and have some
suspense.
So the hot two. Spit on that thing. We'll wait on that.
Apparently, JJ is not up for making people wait.
No, let's go on. Danny, you do your thing.
No way.
No way. I think we got to.
I'm
so
sorry.
hold on
sorry.
a second.
Go
So
ahead.
just to set up the video real quick, and it's gone viral over the last week.
I apologize.
Unfortunately for this girl.
This girl was
I don't know.
obviously out in Nashville after hours, after some drinking, and she was asked what was her go-to move.
Go-to move. Right?
And then after that, so it's how it's going. That's how it started. And then after that, you're going to hear from a wife, and then that's currently how it's going for people.
So they asked her, what's her go-to move?
Right.
Give him that hawk too and spit on that thing. You get me?
If my husband says hawk to spit on that thing one more goddamn fucking time. The internet has broken my husband because he thinks that's the funniest fucking thing on the planet.
Me too, honey.
So tell us about this, JJ.
No, I mean, that's it. She was in Nashville, and this guy with a mic asked her what her go-to move was, and that's what she said. And actually, Tommy is the one that brought it to my attention.
It's gone viral. And she went into hiding?
Yes, she did.
They haven't found her as of right now.
No, I think they have. But the guy that asked her, I think they're interviewing her, and they're not going to release it until they're ready to release it. I think she's been interviewed since then.
Okay.
Her dad should be in hiding. That's who should be in hiding.
No, that's funny.
Come on, man. You
not
got to have a
funny.
sense of humor.
Yeah.
Got to have a sense of humor.
The girl's 18, puts that out there, now 5.
Hey, Tommy.
She's got more listeners than we do now.
Dude, she's gone viral.
She's gone viral
A whole
for sure.
lot. And what was, she had another saying that you told us earlier.
Right, they asked her, "What do you if you break up with somebody, what?" Something to that effect.
How do you get how do you get over it?
To get over one, you got to get under another. So she's full of she's full of great little quips.
She needs to shut up.
She needs to come on the podcast.
She needs to shut the hell
She should
up.
be our she should be our fourth.
We get a lot
Our
of
fourth?
hits.
What do you mean our fourth? There was already 4 of us.
5.
Oh,
Fifth.
my God.
Hey, I meant
Fife.
5th. Whatever.
I think you tried to say Fife.
I did. Sorry, John. I felt bad.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
an unfortunate thing. I don't approve.
You don't
What?
approve as what part of it?
I feel sorry for her. That
I hope she
said
makes
that.
$1 million.
She said it innocently, not knowing it was going to go viral.
There's merch out with Hawk 2 on.
I already got a hat ordered.
Hawk 2 spit on that thing is merch all
Actually,
over
the
place.
hat's pretty cool.
It is.
Little square. It says Hawk 2s.
You know, Willie Mays died.
Oh, whoa. Thanks a
Willie
lot.
Mays.
Change
John,
the subject.
the Say Hey Kid is dead.
No one saw it coming.
He was 93. A lot of us saw it coming. So
No.
that's not where I was going with this. I mean, he was a 24-time All-Star. He was one of the greats.
Oh,
so
no question. No question.
farewell to...
If somebody asked you 2 days ago if Willie Mays was alive, could you answer that correctly without Googling it?
No.
No,
That's what I said too.
me neither.
The
No,
Cardinals
but
are playing the
93 is a
Giants
good run.
tonight at Rickwood Field.
That's that crazy?
Yeah, you know, he should have been there. Willie should have been there because he played on that field.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he played in the Negro Leagues.
Oh, okay. That game's tonight.
Yeah.
It is
It's in
tonight.
Alabama somewhere, isn't it?
Yep. And it was planned
Birmingham.
before he died. So it's
That
kind of a
is
coincidence.
weird.
So now it's gonna be a big a ceremony.
That's
So
cool.
it's pretty cool.
That is
That
cool.
is cool.
It's really cool. So
But I think we need to get to our new sponsor, Dan.
wow. Okay. So hey, and you know what? We're not going to turn this into a long commercial, but this is such a unique thing. So Shikara Automotive Group reached out reached out to us and said they'd be interested in sponsoring the Brighter Side of Blue. And so like we like to do, the four of us, the five of us, what did you say, JJ?
Get one.
Keep going.
Okay, sorry. The four of us set up an arrangement to go down to Schicker Automotive Group right off the hill on South Kings Highway to meet with them on Filer and South Kings Highway. And we met with Olivia, Alex Schicker, and the general manager, Ken Plackey. And we just want to hear kind of what they're looking for in a sponsorship. We were in there for 20 minutes of them telling us all the things that go on down at that dealership for the community before we realized they actually sell cars.
Right.
You know?
It was a great visit.
It was an unbelievable visit. I mean, they have Adopt-A-Pet events down there. They have Make-A-Wish on Saturdays. It's called Make-A-Wish Saturdays. Anybody can go down there and if you test drive a car, they donate $25 to Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, so it's the first Saturday.
It's first Saturday of every month.
Yeah.
Okay, I misspoke, but anyway.
But it is a Saturday.
It is a Saturday. So I test drove one of those new F-150 Lightnings with you two in the car.
Yeah, you did.
That thing is fast. We brought it up here for lunch at Columbo's.
You're talking about that.
And then the Columbo brothers started to test drive it. So they owe like $150 to Make-A-Wish just from our little lunch with the truck.
Cut a check.
But, cut a check. But anyway, hey, I don't want to harp on that, but wow, we were there a long time hearing about all the great things they do for the community and things. You know,
Hey,
they also sell cars.
They take care of policemen. Ike is one of their general managers.
Yeah.
Sold me a car a few times. He's easy to deal with. They're all just so.
What's his name?
Ike Bibbis. I knew him long before he was as a car salesman. He was a big soccer guy.
But the Schicker name is synonymous with police support.
100%.
They're the father of John. John is the current owner of Schicker Automotive. His father was on the police board in the county.
Bill Schicker. Bill
Schicker.
Colonel Bill Schicker.
And John is a board member of the Backstoppers. And then his son Alec is, he's
in the bullpen. He's in the bullpen.
But he's in a big. He's taking a big
taking
role
over now.
And then Ken Plackey's helping him out. And then Olivia is their marketing person. So we had just a great conversation with those guys. And they're just part of the community. Just so they Adopt-A-Pet and Make-A-Wish, and they do fun things. Great people, and we're looking forward to having a good relationship.
Our
with them.
gun guy JJ was impressed with Ken Plackey. What did you find out about him?
Oh, he was a Black Hawk machine gunner.
On a Black Hawk helicopter.
Actually,
he's a doorman gunner.
He also took my CCW class to get his CCW. Well, he let it expire, and then I had to give him another course.
All right.
But he's a good, great guy. Used to be a professional hockey player. I mean, guy's the real deal. And he loves our show. He's I think, the one that pushed it. He started listening to it. I don't even know how he found it, but I was in there getting a car with Ike, and he actually recognized my stupid voice and says, "You're JJ, aren't you?" I go, "Yeah." And I go, "How do you know?" He goes, "I listen to Brighter Side of Blue." True story.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But
he did say, "Tell those guys to stop picking on you."
That ain't gonna happen.
It's not going to happen. It was kind of neat because Olivia is their marketing person, and she said, "I'm going to put together a script for these guys so that when they want to give us our commercial, whatever you want to call it, they have a script." And Ken Plackey goes, "Hey, listening to these guys, they're not the type of guys that are going to follow any script. So forget the script and just whatever." So we're very proud to have them on board as sponsors to keep this going, and we'll move forward. Hey, we got a little bit of a hate going towards the Brighter Side of Blue on when I talked about AOC. We're not a political podcast, but we are a strong supporter of law enforcement. That's the whole premise of our podcast.
Yep.
And our veterans as well. And so when we see something blatantly against law enforcement and our veterans, we're gonna fire back. And when we stop firing back, we're gonna end the podcast. So, but AOC couldn't vote for a resolution at the House of Representatives just denouncing violence against law enforcement and the call to defund the police. And we see what defunding the police does to communities, Tommy, right?
Absolutely.
It makes them unsafe. And so when she talks that crap, we're going to fire back, and we're going to fire back strong, or we're never going to stop. So, that's enough of that.
Well said.
That touched you.
It just pissed me off. It just pissed me off.
Fired up.
Defund D's nuts.
I'm with you.
That's what we say.
I'm
That's
with
what
you.
sure.
You know, because they look at around here. You know, we're 400 or 500 officers down in the city. We need to get policemen out there because you can come up with all the plans you want, and if you don't have the leadership and you don't have the support around you, and that leadership is just not the police department, it's the community, it's the politicians that are involved. And and that's where the leadership is, because you know, if those people aren't behind you, who wants to work in that situation?
Right.
But when those guys are behind you, and you feel wanted, and you feel like you're doing a good job, that's how you're going to get officers to come to your community that really care.
Yep.
Hey, I want to say one thing then, because when we first started this in November, one of my guys I went to high school with has a podcast called the Sea Captain's Way. He's very successful. He's a motivational speaker. He does coaches at Mizzou. He's a big Mizzou alumni supporter, and you can see him on the sidelines of football games. He goes there once a month for a week and trains them. He listened to it. He and I went to high school together, like I said, and he listened to our first one, and he interviewed us way back in end of November, I guess.
Right. After about 4 shows, I believe.
Yeah, and then he it just came out. He had some legal issues with it, so he finally came out. So if you want to hear his interview of us, I thought it was well done. He's actually, you can tell he's definitely a good speaker and interviewer.
Right. A lot better than us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, it's called the Sea Captain Way. He talks to the brighter side of blue.
And it's on Spotify.
Yep.
I don't know that it's on YouTube. It's on Spotify.
But he actually
And
said,
what's the name of it? The Sea Captain Way.
The Sea Captain Way. Phil
We'll
Bender.
put that on our Facebook. I think we can do that, can't we, Johnny?
Absolutely.
So we'll put that on our Facebook, and then listen to us three knuckleheads talk with Phil.
And actually,
Phil Bender, right?
Yeah, Phil. And I actually, the best part about that whole thing is he took Danny deep on a fuzzball game.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll just say that.
Whatever.
We'll just keep going.
Whatever.
If you want to hear that story,
He hit
you gotta
a
listen.
rope off him
Oh, well,
to lose. Danny lost the game.
Anyway, so we'll move on from there, and then
What was your ERA that year?
that was it. It was
One home run.
Only run I ever gave up.
That one.
Yeah, that one.
Whatever.
Okay.
His only pitch.
That's like I think he said, let's move on.
What do you got for us? You got some shenanigans going on?
Now, are you guys? And I briefed you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a trial going on in Atlanta, and it's a RICO trial.
Explain that to our
So
new
that's
listener
when
in Jamaica.
You know that they came up with this to fight the mafia back in the day.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know the exact termination for it, but it's a big organization using crime to furtherance their careers of different things. But anyway, these things are very hard cases. And I wasn't paying attention to it. This thing's been going on for 6 months. But this first video that we're going to show, and I'm getting all my updates on social media, it is by far the most entertaining trial that you'll ever witness or ever get clips to in your life. And here's the one, the first one here is the one that caught my attention.
This is a defendant taking a stand?
No, this is one of the witnesses.
Oh, Jesus.
Who's the defendant?
The defendant is Young Thug. His real name is Jeffrey Williams. And as I was talking to Jack earlier today, telling him I was going to update us on the Young Thug trial, Jack says, I used to listen to Young Thug. So he's a rapper.
But his real name's Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
Yeah. You can't be tough with Jeffrey.
Right, you
Hey,
gotta
somebody
go
go
with Young
find
Thug.
Jeffrey. We're going to beat somebody's ass. Where's Jeffrey? We're going to wear somebody out.
He's over at Chad's house.
So he had to change his name to Young Thug.
Okay.
But here's the witness that got my attention to this thing.
I asked you, the authorities, the police, the prosecutors, I just made a broad that they forced Jeffrey Williams into it. Did you hear you say that?
Can I get a water or something? I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to
I'm about to go to sleep on y'all.
I'm so high, I'm about to go to sleep on y'all.
He looked like he was asleep.
So then, I started looking. I was like, "What trial is this?" So then I got to researching it, and it caught my attention a little bit. And and interesting other things are going on. Fannie Willis's office is handling this thing, and she was in the news. So, and then it started out with 28 defendants on this RICO trial. It's now down to 6. And so the other one that then again, so it's not that interesting right now. As you know, okay, and there's a lot of shit going on. But then this one, now Woody shows up, and Woody and the gang's called YSL. YSL, and they put the YSL before their name. So this dude's name is like YSL Woody, and it's spelled. You would think it's Woody, but his name is Woody.
Okay.
Okay. So
I got you.
So Woody is one of the gangsters, one of the YSL people that was a hitman, and they put him in songs whacking people. A lot of their lyrics end up being a lot of the crimes they've committed. So they're trying to use the lyrics of the songs in the trial. And this thing, so Woody, the prosecution or the prosecutors give Woody immunity on a murder.
So he can
testify against Young Thug. So, so Woody takes the stand on a Friday, and they ask him 2 questions. And when you're given immunity, you do have to testify. You can't plead the fifth after you've been given immunity. Apparently,
you got to talk.
Right. So Woody's on a Friday. Woody testifies. And 2 questions in, he pleads the fifth with immunity. So they throw Woody. The judge throws Woody in jail for the weekend. So coming out of jail on Monday, Woody meets with the judge and the prosecutors in the judge's chambers without any defendant lawyers. Well, they convince Woody to testify. Well, in the interim, Young Thug lawyer gets the information that this meeting occurred without him, and apparently that is a huge no-no.
Yeah.
So now then the lawyer brings it up, says, "I got information that you guys coerced little Woody, threatened to throw him in jail for the rest of the trial and all this." And then the judge asked the lawyer, and this lawyer's like, for the people in St. Louis, it's like Scott Rosenblum, real high-time lawyer,
defense attorney,
sharp as could be. And so he said, "Where'd you get that information?"
The judge asked.
The judge is asking, this guy's name's Steele, his last name's Steele. And so where'd you get that information? So he won't give him the information. He holds him in criminal contempt, the lawyer. So the other defensive lawyers in Georgia are getting word that this Brian Steele has been held in criminal contempt for not upping this information.
After the judge committed the crime, having this secret meeting.
So now this guy's going to jail. So all these defense lawyers show up, and they're all in the gangway, waiting to go. They're mad. And so the judge sentences them to 20 weekends in jail.
The lawyer?
The lawyer, yeah. And so, everybody's kind of freaking out that day. So then the judge, or the lawyer, Brian Steele, comes up and asks the judge, he says, "If you're going to sentence me to this and I can't have bail, I would request to be jailed or cellmates with my client, Young Thug."
No, Woody.
No,
oh,
this
Young
is Young
Thug.
Thug.
Oh, yeah.
No, Woody's the one that had the
Yeah,
conversation.
got you. My bad.
So now this is going on the weekend, right? And all hell's breaking loose. They're filing motions to recuse the judge and corruption charges. The judge and the prosecutors are way behind in public opinion. They think they're corrupt. The police are doing great, though. If the police got interviews, they're doing great. But they're not having it with these prosecutors. So I'm just going to play you the next clip, and this is Woody. And this is how shit was going with Woody, and this is kind of his typical Woody.
You asked me about something I don't know how to answer these questions. I don't really, a lot of this stuff you talking about, like, I've been through too much to be trying to remember certain stuff or these questions you asking me. Like, you discombobulated me up here. Like, you want me to lie? You want me to tell the truth? I can't.
See, well, Woody's got a problem here because Woody's got 3 hours of tape in the detective's room. of just snitching the whole gang out. So Woody is now using he gets the plea, right? But now he's going to go up and he's claiming that he don't remember telling he remembers telling them certain things, but that he always lies to the police. That's his current. That's how he's going to get out of being a snitch, is that I was just lying to those people. So there's 3 hours of tape. So Woody started out amongst the rapping community and the people that were following this as one of the bad guys. Woody has turned himself into a star
because he's all discombobulated.
Yes. So we're gonna play another clip, and this clip is the prosecutor, and Woody does not like these prosecutors. So she's gonna come up to Woody and present some pictures, and this is how it goes.
64 Echo Hotel. And 164
For those that can't see, Woody shooed her away. He didn't like her perfume, so he shoot her away with his hand, and then to get her away, the poor prosecutor's like, God damn. Did he just say I stank? Look at she walks away. So the next one is the next day. The trial's starting, and Woody's on the stand, and the prosecutor asked the judge a question, but Woody thought it was for him. Go ahead.
This is fair.
Good morning, Mr. Copeland.
Good morning.
You have permission to approach?
No. She was asking me that, Mr. Copeland, okay?
So the prosecutor same prosecutor that stank the day before wanted to approach him. Woody wanted no part of it. He wanted no, but nope. I'm telling you, it's the most entertaining trial ever.
Oh, jeez.
There's other, like, all these people that are pleading, and again, this Fannie Willis, Soros-backed judge. So they start out with these 26 defendants. And when they plea, they're in jail. And then after for something, awaiting trial for the RICO.
Okay, got you.
And then this RICO trial, they're claiming that these group of people did murders, robberies, all kinds of stuff, and it's like I said, the YSL, and then they open up a rap label, a very successful rap label, #1 song, so they got money, and they had it going on, but they went from a gang, YSL, which was for young slime life, and then their rapper thing is young stoner life. So they keep naming themselves shit that the police is going to go, what are they doing? They got to be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, this trial, they have over 100. This has been going on since November.
Okay.
And in December, they had to halt the trial because one of the 6 defendants got stabbed in prison. So they had to halt the trial for that. And then, so now they're down to 6, and they have 125 plus witnesses left. And this has been already going on since November. And I can only imagine if Woody is entertaining. And I'm not even playing. There's some other ones when I went back and looked at this. There's some other people that were on the stand that were equally as funny as Woody. Not quite as funny as Woody. I think Woody's going to think he might be the best. And they haven't even started the cross-examination of Woody. So what the Steele wants to do is, now that the judge filed a criminal complaint against him, the gal that got judged, or that was in her name's Merchant, and she was in the Trump deal where she got them to investigate the relationship between the attorney and the lawyer.
Okay.
So she's that same judge. She's now Brian Steele's lawyer for the criminal complaint. So
it's going to be a Netflix movie.
Dude, she is on it.
Can you think? I think Tom's obsessed with this whole trial.
Oh, every night. So, and it's a good thing is on social media, you get the snippets. You don't have to watch the whole trial. You get the snippets of the funny shit and the sparks going off in the courtroom. I mean, this is like, you've been in those trials before, and Ruth Rosenblum or whoever. That it's not personal. They're not trying to. This thing seems personal. These people do not like each other. It is just, it's in the.
Keep us updated on this.
Just shit. Think I won't?
Can you make the next update under 45 minutes?
No, that's not if there's just. I had to catch everybody up. That was a 6 months catch up.
That was pretty good.
That was good.
So now we just got to play the clips of the people.
No, I'm on board.
I think it was great. And Tommy's high as shit when he's doing that.
I know.
Too,
I don't know.
See, that's why I get fascinated.
But the story was so long, his buzz was wearing off.
Not necessarily.
We need to take a break.
I got really, really high before this one.
Okay. You stopped
I knew I was going to have to tell this story, so I was like, I got to get high as a motherfucker.
You filled up the tank. All right. Oh, Jesus. You know what? John, you look like you have something to say.
Well, just
either that or you're coming on to me.
No. The
did you see that look he gave me?
I know. I was
like,
he's going
to tell us what RICO stands for.
How'd you know that?
Because I looked it up too.
Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. RICO.
Yes. And it was done to like in the back for the New York Mafia.
Yeah.
And this is usually federal prosecutors do this, and it's extremely hard. And federal prosecutors are some of the best prosecutors out there. These Fannie and her people decided to do it at a state level.
They're not cutting it.
And then they decide to pick on these guys that, I mean, and they are, I'm sure they're good for a lot of stuff they're getting accused for, but they've bungled this thing up into a complete circus.
You know who they're going to have to hire to protect some of those witnesses down there?
Corby Campbell.
Corby Campbell. You like that segue?
That was good.
Campbell. That was a good segue.
Because some of those snitches might need to go up some of that money.
Yeah, Tommy. Corby Campbell and the Campbell Security Group. I saw him patrolling my neighborhood last night on the Blink camera.
Yep. Go down and get a car from Sugar. And then when you get to work, and there's like they had to fire somebody, and they're like, "Oh my God, he might come back and do something." You know, who are you going to call?
Call CampbellSecurityGroup.com.
Yep.
Well, you might as well swing by Columbo's too while you're out.
To get a beer, calm down.
Yeah.
To get a beer
Calm your nerves,
and their
right?
daily special down in Dogtown.
I like
Columbo's
it.
Cafe
I like
and
it.
Tavern.
John's always thinking.
John, we got to pay the bills. Got to pay the bills. JJ, I'm a little stressed out after that thug story, and Woody's got me all worked up. I'm a little stressed out. You got a little JJ's
I do.
End? Do we have any? Oh, Jack, we turn the lights down.
Hey, can
That's
I
not- I don't
apologize
trust
for
him.
playing the bongos too loud last week?
Just premature.
Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid.
All right. Short and powerful.
Damn.
You say it again? Anybody hear
Yeah,
that?
please.
Yep.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. And that was said by
Woody.
Woody. Not going to follow that up, but that's it. Woody said it.
We were doing segues.
Well, let's leave it at that.
I'm not even going to say who really said it, but that's good.
No, Ronald
Woody.
Reagan said that. I remember when he said it.
Ronald Reagan said that. One of
He
the
did. It was Ronald Reagan.
Best president in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's your opinion.
We're not,
He was very
we're
good.
not
It
political,
was
though.
much funnier when Woody said it.
Yeah. John
That's some good shit, John.
That was very
does
good.
it again.
Hey,
John
good.
does it again.
And it's not going to require any editing. You did good.
Oh, that's 2 in a row, fellas. That's 2 in a row.
I was just guessing, JJ.
Producer
job.
John, are you sitting on anything over there? You got a newsroom.com for us?
I do. It's
Is it a short one?
I'm not shorting it because I can't go behind Young Thug. This was a trial 120 years before Young Thug, but it happened this time. June of 1904.
World's Fair year.
World's Fair.
Good job.
World's Fair.
That's good.
And it happened at the World's Fair. So the 1904 World's Fair, the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, was held between April 30th and December 1st of 1904. For people who aren't from St. Louis, 19.7 million people attended over those months. But there was some crime associated with. You see all the good things that happened, and they talk. People debate whether the ice cream cone was invented there and the hot dog, whatever. But we're going to focus on the crime. And here's a couple criminal incidents that happened that that people may not look at as crimes, but I do. Because the 1904 Summer Olympics were held here the same year, and it was the first time they were ever held in the United States. but they were originally awarded to Chicago, and they were supposed to have the first Olympics there. But we threatened to have rival games at the same time, and a lot of the athletes were going to come here because of the World's Fair instead of going to the Olympics. So that's the first crime.
Leverage.
Yep.
Yeah.
We stole the Olympics from Chicago.
Okay.
Good.
Which I'm all behind.
Yeah.
And then the bird cage at the zoo, the huge bird cage, that was lent to us by the Smithsonian Institute, and we're supposed to give it back after the fair. Well, we still got it. So there's another there's
crime
another
number
theft.
2.
And then there was an incident called the bullfight riot that happened here. There was an actual bullfight on the grounds of the World's Fair, but the governor put a stop to it, like in the middle of it, because we had anti-bullfighting rules.
Back then they had
I
woke.
would imagine.
Yeah.
Bullfighting protesters?
Yeah. So
Bullfight between 2 bulls?
No.
like in Mexico.
Like you do. Ole, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
The red cape.
It wasn't like a cockfight. It
1902,
was a
they might as well-
bullfight.
But they actually
Or
killed them. They
1904.
actually killed the bull in those fights, though,
Yeah.
with spears.
Well, the governor didn't let it happen, and
They used to,
But the
anyway.
thing was, they canceled it in the middle. Well, everybody went to get their money back, and they wouldn't give them their money back, and this huge riot broke out, and a bunch of people got locked
The
up.
bullfight riot.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, got you.
But the crime that made the news, and I'll make this short, but there's a man named Zach Mulhall, and who was also known as the Oklahoma Cattle King. Zach was he was friends with President Roosevelt. He was a muckety muck. He had lots of money. He had a home in St. Louis, but he also had all this cattle down in Oklahoma. His daughter was like the first cowgirl in these Wild West shows. He supposedly discovered like Tom Mix and some of these old time cowboys. Anyway, he was here. He got into it with a cowboy. We had a Wild West show, and he got into it. He got
Hey, don't cut him off.
He accused this cowboy of stealing his horse the night before, or whatever.
Oh, shit.
Well, Zach shows up, and I'm just assuming he's mad and had a few whiskeys in him. Well, he confronts this cowboy and starts shooting at him. Well, he fires 12 shots, and only one hits the cowboy, but he hits a couple other bystanders and whatever. So he gets locked up for
Shooting people.
For shooting people.
Damn right.
So, and the person who was injured the worst was a young boy who was just a bystander. So anyway, he ends up in the city jail. Well, he's a muckety muck. So they're trying to get him out of jail, and the police department convinced the judge not to let him out to see if these people survived their wounds. Well, in the meantime, they allowed him every day. He woke up. They made him breakfast. Zach Mulhall, and then they took him down for a shave, and then he'd have receptions all day. He said, the one that Saturday after it happened, he had over 200 visitors in the corridors of the city jail, and they had a big party. Just keeping him entertained while he was locked up. So anyway, after 3 days in jail, they allowed him to have a bond for $20,000. Some other rich guy.
$20,000
back in the day.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. But I think it was it was like a signature bond, but it was for $20,000. Well, the police department was all upset because he got out, because this little boy didn't know if he was going to make it or not, which he did. None of the people died, but he got out, went back to Oklahoma. He ended up having a trial here later. They found him guilty, and then of course 2 days later, his sentence was commuted by the governor or somebody, and he got out. But it was a big story here, but it was a big story nationwide, and it was just to me, it was kind of a neat
World's Fair. Wow, World's Fair.
I think the boy grew up and became a governor of the St. Louis.
No,
Zach?
Governor of St. Louis.
Yeah, governor of Missouri.
Zach's
sure.
kind of a strange name for 1904, isn't it?
I don't know, but
kind of a newer name.
I thought you said it was a
couple
short one.
presidents named Zach. Is that
Zachary Taylor.
Zachary
Okay.
Taylor?
Zachary Taylor, yeah.
yeah.
You're wrong, Tom.
Yeah, so simmer down over there.
Oh,
Spark
but,
it up again.
Like the World's Fair, but we talked about the Elton John at the VP Fair.
Yeah.
And so I got a text from one of our listeners, Ken Gable, because we wanted that story. And
Greg
Ken,
Colombo gave that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kenny told us the real story, texted me the real story is that he was involved. And this particular, when Elton John, that particular fair was the biggest fair we've ever had, packed. And they just knew by bringing his limo in that it could create chaos. So the plan was created out in the parking lot. They got Elton John, they put him in Kenny Gable's sergeant's shirt or sergeant uniform and his hat.
Police uniform.
And they put him in the police car, Hackett's command car, Colonel Hackett's command car. And they put Gable in the limo. And as they drove up, the police car would get him out of the way, but everybody was, going after the limo. And then when they got up there, he just walked, Hackett and Elton John just walked out and walked right back to the stage. And then the limo was surrounded. And I texted Gable, I said, so everybody surprised when you got out and you weren't Elton John? He goes, yeah, they weren't real excited to see me. And then, but Kenny got, he says I should have asked him to sign the shirt. But he did give everything back. That was erroneous that he did not take any hat pieces or
That's
hats.
a pretty good story.
In 1982.
1982. So, yep. So Gable was there. Thank you, Kenny, for straightening that story out. Good story still. The old bait and switch, baby.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The bait and
Elton
switch.
John. What do we got coming up now? Detective Chris Pappas?
Yep, the Futo murders.
Emory Futo.
The whole family. So Chris is going to talk. Chris was the first detective responding there, and as you hear, he was on a long stretch already, about to go off, and he answered this call at 3:00 in the afternoon, and it was a snowball call. One of those things started snowballing and snowballing and snowballing, and he was working for the next 7 days, many of it out in San Diego, and just a great story that not a great. I mean, it's a story, but it's from Chris's point of view.
Yeah, he was on the scene at the homicide.
Just,
Emory Futo went to the Berg with me, and
Chris Pappas went to my high school, so I'm on the side of the good guys. You're always on this.
Yeah, but
the Berg's not.
I had a rough run. I had a rough run.
They got quite the alumni there.
Yeah, I had a little rough run. But
Rabbit, and then
Danny.
The Southside Rapist, Emory Futo,
Father Funky. We haven't done a story on him.
Tom or Danny knew.
Perfect name.
So anyway, enjoy Detective Chris Pappas talking about the Futo murders.
Hey, that's why I hit my team.
All right, welcome back to the brighter side of blue. Very excited about our guest tonight. Retired Sergeant Chris Pappas, 33 years on the job at the SLMPD, 20 of which were in the homicide division. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Chris, we're going to talk about, we kind of brag on the brighter side of blue about the access we get to certain information. There's stories that have been told, and we retell them only with the guarantee that we bring new tidbits of information, stuff that nobody has heard in prior. And so today we're going to talk about the Emory Futo murders, and it's been told, it's been on YouTube, it's on stuff, but we have you here to tell us inside details about that, Tommy.
Let me just set it up a little bit, and in talking to Chris, is what we wanted to bring across is it was a crazy scene,
several
as everybody
scenes,
knows, right? Several scenes, and it was anybody that lived in South St. Louis knew it at the time. It's been, like Danny says, been all over the news, and documentaries have been done about it, but none have been given from Chris's standpoint, who was there from the start to the finish.
Literally.
Right. Literally, and then it took days. I mean, it's a great story, and
sad story.
It's a sad story, but to just start it off, it's the Futo family, and they were from the south side of St. Louis. There was a family of 5. The father was Emory Sr., the wife was Una, the oldest son was Emory Jr., and then there was Nick, and then Joe, I believe, was the
hierarchy
of the family. And So what we're going to do, and Chris, what we want to do is go back to that Friday and then tell us what happened. Tell us how it all went down.
Well, I remember it well.
What year was it?
1991.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I had just worked 8 days in a row, and on a Friday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, I'm sliding out the door, hoping to start a little early.
Yep.
And the call comes out. The second district requested homicide to the Marquette address off of Watson Road. And initially, the call came out as a murder, suicide, I think was initially how the call came out. And it was in late July, we were short of manpower. And there was only, as I recall, one person coming in on the afternoon watch in homicide. So I got on the radio and took the call. When I arrived on Marquette, initially, what had happened was a next-door neighbor had called the police because the Futos, Emory Sr. and Eunice, had not showed up for work that day, and which was unlike them. Apparently, they were always very expedient people on time. So the neighbor calls the police and says, "Hey, I got a call from their employers. Said they have not showed up. Their car is still here." So she had a key to the house, let the uniformed second district officers in, and I took the call. Was actually on my way home again after working 8 days in a row. So we were short of people. Late July, we had a lot of people on vacations. So when I arrived on Marquette, the second district was there. They met me. They had used the next door neighbor's extra key to get into the house, and they found Emory Futo Sr. at the bottom of the stairway to the basement, had been shot multiple times and stabbed. The mother, Eunice, had been beaten and an electric extension cord wrapped around her neck. That's how we found him.
Okay.
But the neighbor found him first?
No. The neighbor called the police and asked them to check the house because they had not showed up for work.
Got you.
So the policeman had gone in prior to you getting there?
Yes.
And then when you get there, obviously, the scene is... Tell us a little bit about that scene in particular.
Well, it was a pretty gruesome scene. In particular, Eunice Futo. She had her head beaten, and again was dragged through the house with an electric extension cord around her neck.
So it was obviously a personal thing. Did you think at that point, because it was so?
Well, what I did initially was, in going through the house, there were no signs of forced entry into the house at all. Walking through the house, nothing appeared to have been touched except in the parents' bedroom. Drawers were pulled out. The bedroom had basically been ransacked. Then I went in the living room, and there were about 15 empty picture hooks on the wall, and all the pictures had been taken off and smashed in the middle of the floor, all except one picture. There was one picture of an infant child still hanging there. So, of course, you wonder, whose child is that?
Right.
So, while the afternoon shift finally was able to make it out, one detective, so I had some help getting the scene done. While we were there, I got a call to contact the chief's office. Actually, had gotten a call from St. Louis County, and they were handling a homicide in St. Marcus Cemetery at Gravois and River de Pere. Apparently, they received a call for a body, and the body apparently was identification. It turned out to be Nicholas Futo. And a short time, about an hour after that, the second district got a call to, I believe it was a 3500 block of Watson Road, a few blocks from the Futo family residence, and his red 65 Mustang, he was found stuffed in the back seat of it, covered up with some coats and bags and other things like that.
That was Joseph.
That was Joseph Futo.
So you're still at Marquette at this point.
Yes.
And all this information's coming at you.
All coming at us at one time, yeah, within hours.
So, and you're trying to put all this together, and then somebody walks up to you. Tell us about that conversation.
Well, while we were all at the scene, a female got my attention, gal in her mid-20s, and she said that she may have information that would be helpful to us. So I sat her in the police car. She said that she had been watching the news, which is the reason she came to the house, and she said she was Nick Futo's girlfriend. This is on a Friday. She had last seen Nick on a Wednesday evening, and he told her that on Thursday he was picking his brother Emory up from the airport, and his brother was flying in from California. And the reason he picked him up was they were going to do some type of big dollar drug deal, according to him.
So according to Emory.
According to Nick telling his girlfriend.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. And then, so now you got 3 scenes going on. You're trying to get information from all of them. What is the next piece of information that you found relevant?
Well, I worked until about 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 7:30, my pager's going off. Was a command post trying to get a hold of me, so I called them, and they had gotten a call from a woman who lived a block or 2 from the scene, said she may have information regarding the case. So I got up, got showered, and drove to this person's house, female, and she said that on Thursday night she had gone grocery shopping, arrived home, and her minivan was unloading groceries, and she said directly across the street was a sporty red car. Now, apparently Nick Futo drove a red Mitsubishi Eclipse that we had not located yet. So, according to this one, she said there was a man in the car rifling through the glove compartment, looking at papers, and that she recalled that she could see him well because the light inside the dome light was on. So I asked her if she'd recognize this individual, and she said she thought she could. I had a family picture from the Futo residence, and I had with me in the police car, and I had her look at it, and she positively identified Emory Futo. Said the picture, he had a little less hair when she saw him in the car, but it was the same person. And then after completing that, once again I got another call the command post. There was a waitress at a Denny's restaurant by the airport who believed that she might have information that could help us. So I drove to the airport, interviewed her, and she said that on Friday morning, early, she was working a night shift, maybe around 5 in the morning, that a man had come in and sat at the counter, ordered food, and she said that he was acting very nervous, very fidgety, and that he had a very, very bad odor about him. She prefaced how bad the odor was on him. And, again, I asked her, I said, is there any reason you think this person might be involved in our case? She said, I don't know, but I just have a feeling. Wow. And I said, okay. So I showed her the family picture that I had showed the previous witness, and she positively identified Emory Futo as well. So.
And then so now this is like 10 in the morning on a Saturday, and then now Detective Joe Nickerson, who's a friend of all of ours, he's coming in from vacation, and he gives you a call and then gets the update. Well, how do you update him?
Yeah. Joe gives me a call. His first day back from vacation, and he gets hit with this. So, I talked to Joe and tried to bring him up to speed as quickly as I could. And then my next step was to the airport to check records there. And the airport police were very helpful. We checked every record imaginable on the computer system here in California as well. And there was nothing under Emory's name for a flight to or from St. Louis. So we're thinking if he's here, obviously he was here, he's under an assumed name.
And how did you come up with that name that he flew under?
He told us. He told me when I interviewed him in Riverside.
What was the
But
name?
right-
What was the name again?
I'm trying to remember what the
What-
name
what
was.
was
But Chris, I got a question. At this point, how many bodies are found so far?
4.
Is that the?
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
So we got the whole family, but we don't have the whole family accounted for because now you're getting this. You've got it in your mind that we need to find Emory, and what do you do with as far as where he's at, and how do you go about trying to find him?
Okay. When I left the airport, after we tried to check records there, went back to the Homicide Division office downtown and in the old police headquarters. And I believe Joe Dickerson, he contacted the Riverside Sheriff's Department to let him know what we were working on. And I contacted, I'm trying to remember how I got the information, but Emory worked outside Los Angeles for a company called Metal Container Corporation, and they made the beer cans for Anheuser-Busch products. And I was able to contact his supervisor, boss at Metal Container Corporation, and I had to leave a message. He called me back, and I informed him that we were conducting an investigation, and asked him if Emory worked for him. He said he did, and I asked him if Emory had worked all week or what his schedule was. He said that Emory had been off work since Wednesday and wasn't returning until the following Monday. Okay, so we verified that. At this point, we had the Riverside Sheriff's Department, who were, by the way, great to work with. They went by Emory's house on the premise of giving him the information about his family.
Yeah.
And of course, we just wanted to see if he's there. And he did answer the door, and the Riverside Sheriff's Department informed him of what had happened to his family.
And you're in contact, and you're working at this point. What attorney? I think you were working with an attorney at this point.
Well,
here in St. Louis.
Well, at that afternoon, we got a call from George Peach, who you may remember.
Oh yeah,
right?
ex-prosecutor.
And he had been following the case on the news and wanted to know what we needed, where we were at. So by early evening on Saturday, everything that we did have was, again, we had verified that Emory had been in St. Louis by 2 witnesses, and we knew that he obviously was not at work. So we asked George Peach over the phone. We told him we needed an at-large warrant, which we got right away. And of course, he calls me. He says to me, "Listen, get on a plane right now." So we had to fly out. Actually, the next morning, we flew out on an early morning, about 5:30 a.m. flight to California.
What was the time frame? I'm sorry. The time frame from when the murders took place and he actually got back.
Well, the murders actually took place would have been on a Thursday night.
Okay. And then he got back to California when?
Friday.
Damn.
No, he came in
Friday late, right? Because he was stinking with the waitress.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it flew out that
A little
night.
funky.
Yeah. Well, think about it. It was a July in St. Louis, and he'd been murdering all day. Seriously. And from based on what you're saying, there was pretty intense scenes.
Yes.
Sweating and so
wow.
I find this one interesting is who had to pay for you to get you and Joe Nickerson to go out to L.A.
Well, at the time we there was apparently no one able to come into the chief's office to get us credit cards or cash. So
it is the weekend.
I was asked, do one of you guys have a credit card? Joe was quicker than I was. He said, "Oh, my wife's got them all." And
good answer.
So I told our captain, Bob Bauman, a good guy. I said, "Bob, I'll use my American Express card, but they've got to pay me back." I said, "This bill is due in full at the end of the month, if you're familiar with American Express." So we went to. It was Saturday night. We had to buy our tickets at the airport, and we took one way because we didn't know when we were coming back. We flew to Ontario, and were met by the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Rented a car, and we got settled into our hotel, and then we went to the Riverside County Jail where actually I interviewed Emory for 7 hours.
And they had locked him up on your at-large warrant, correct?
Yes.
They went out there and got him for you?
They went out,
Yep.
and they had picked him up while we were on the way, so it was imperative we get out there to talk to him as soon as we could. So I interviewed Emory for 7 hours. He basically right from the onset said that he had killed his father, and his motivation was he alleges that his father had sexually, physically, and mentally abused him from the time he was a small child. He said that his brother Nick had killed his mother and 2 brothers. Or his brother Joe, I'm sorry, the other brother Joe. And he says that he and Nick had a suicide pact and went to St. Marcus Cemetery. He claims that he shot his brother Nicholas at the cemetery, and he tried to turn the gun on himself, but he put it in his mouth, his ear, his sword, but he couldn't do it. So this, again, is over a period of about 7 hours, and it concluded when I simply asked him, were you really going to kill yourself? And he said, and he would very dramatically said, yes, he was. And I said, well, why'd you buy a round-trip airline ticket?
Great question.
That's a great question. And what was his answer? Did he just...
He just put his head down at that point, didn't have anything else to say.
And he stuck with that story, correct?
Yes.
He didn't come off that story. And just to go back is when we were doing the show prep here just a little earlier, is that you read him his rights and he refused a lawyer at that time.
That's correct.
And then he comes back to St. Louis, and this is going to be a murder, or not, but a
death sentence.
Death sentence case.
Yes.
So, but you had met his wife while you were there. Didn't you do some other interviews while you guys were
I
there?
did. We did interviews. The family, actually, his wife was very nice. We did a search warrant on his home in California, and the wife, the family, was very cooperative, and so forth.
Did you find clothes out there?
We didn't find anything on the search warrant. No.
Okay.
And then you talked to one of his buddies that actually dropped him off at the airport, correct?
I did. We located a coworker that lived in Los Angeles that actually had taken him and dropped him off at the airport. According to that person, Emory had told him it was a family emergency in St. Louis, and could you take me and I'll call you when I need a ride back. And he was very credible, very believable.
And how did Emory get to the St. Louis airport when he was leaving St. Louis?
He drove his brother Nick's car, and apparently the St. Louis County Police found it approximately 1 mile from the airport.
And when did they find it? Were you guys still in L.A.
We had already left, and they found the car. I think it was on that Sunday that we arrived in California, but they found the car here.
And that was Nick's car. Did Nick pick him up from the airport? Do we know that?
So we believe that that's what happened. Nick picked him up at the airport.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And then, he claims that he was all these horrible things happened to him. Do you guys investigate that part? Do you guys get some interviews?
We did. We interviewed when we returned to St. Louis. We interviewed probably no less than maybe 4 different family members, relations, a number of friends, acquaintances, people that knew him. And many had heard those stories over the years, but we could never really substantiate those stories, never really verify it.
Wow. So, Chris, I don't know if you know this, but I went to DeBerg High School here in South St. Louis, and so did Emory for a while.
Right.
And he was a football player, and he was a good-looking, strong,
Southside rapist too. That's
yeah, Southside.
It's good high school.
It was a good high school, But Emory, there was a terrible rumor. I think it was like when he was in 8th grade or right around start of freshman year, that somebody must have been a practical joke to start with, but for some reason it caught fire. That somebody walked in and he was having sex with the family dog, a tiny dog. Hey, it was total bullshit. Obviously, it did not happen. For some reason, it followed him everywhere he went, and so he never had a normal high school. And then this, I don't know about the family situation, but did you hear that rumor back in the day?
We did. That rumor was actually pretty strong, but once again. In following up when we came back to St. Louis, there was nothing, again, to verify or substantiate that story.
And just a side note on that, Tommy, I'll never forget that at high school that people would walk, when Emory would walk by or walk in a room, somebody in the back of the room would chirp like a dog, bark like a dog, woof, whatever. But nobody did it to his face.
He didn't kill the dog.
Nobody did to his face because he'd beat their ass, and he, and it was just kind of a cruel thing. I just
don't even know where to go with that. I had another. I had another quick one to throw in there.
But you said that was BS. How do you know that was BS? You don't.
Logistics.
But now this goes to trial. Not only does it go to trial once, but it goes to trial twice because the first time Emory Futo takes the stand to testify in behalf of himself, correct?
Yes.
And then he sticks with the exact story he told you?
Yes.
That this was a suicide pact and they were, abused and whatnot?
Yes.
And then there's a technicality where apparently the judge didn't allow Emory Futo to talk to his defense attorney at one point in time. Was that correct?
Yes.
And then that case gets thrown out and they have to go back to trial. And there's a second trial. And this is going on for how long now, Chris?
This went on for, the first trial I believe was in 92, and the second one was in 95.
Wow.
Or 96 even.
So the second time, though, he doesn't take the stand because he knows that the prosecutors are onto his story that he laid out. And they were going to tear that story up if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was that. It was just a wild, and everybody in St. Louis, a lot of our listeners are from South St. Louis. That was the just a wild case that everybody was following. So, Chris, in your opinion, after investigating this, you got 3 crime scenes, got him telling you a bullshit story. What do you think happened?
He killed them all.
And then in what order? How do you think it went?
Well, I think probably he killed Nick first.
In the cemetery.
Nick picked him up at the airport. I would say that he killed Nick first, possibly Joe second, and I think his parents were last.
Okay.
Why did he go to the cemetery to kill Nick?
I'm not sure. Other than the fact that maybe they figured it was quiet, it was not as many people around.
Right.
That would be my guess.
Yeah. And that crime scene at the house on Marquette, was it just kind of a brutal one to walk in on?
It was, yes.
Seemed very violent.
Well, he recently, within the last year or so, he actually came clean and gave a confession of some sort to a Channel 4 reporter. And in that confession, he does say that he killed them all. He still is adamant about the fact that he was abused. But in that confession, he mentions that you were not at all believing anything that he was saying. So I thought that was pretty cool. But again, we're not going to get into the in-depths of it was brutal. Anytime you kill a family member or 4 other family members.
I just give kudos to Chris also. It's going back to some of the minor details. You have this hectic scene on Marquette, other scenes brewing coming your way. You're getting bombarded with information, and somebody gets your attention. It's a 20-year-old neighbor gets your attention. Hey, a lot of people would have brushed that off and said, hey, get back from the tape, get back, whatever.
Yeah, and Chris, it was July. He said his partner was on vacation. Half the homicide division was off. It just, he was like the right man at the right time to handle this investigation. Yeah. And in your 20 years doing homicides, Chris, is this like the most violent, family type of situation you ever saw?
You know what? It's hard to say. It was a very violent situation, obviously. It's not something you handle all the time. But there have been some pretty bad ones. Yeah. There really is. They're all bad.
Chris, what year did you go to homicide?
I went to homicide in 1986.
1986. So there was probably, in our homicide division back in the day, and it's still got great investigators. But when we were coming through the police department as young guys, that was a place where a lot of people went right before they got promoted.
Yes.
And there was just a litany of guys down there that became legends. Who was down there when you came down there that really helped you out?
Oh man, there were some real veterans there when I got there, and well, I don't want to omit anyone. I would say this: the people that, and we kind of discussed this, but the people that had the biggest effect on me, that helped me the most, and I probably learned the most from, were Frank Manizak and Joe Burgone.
We know him.
Well,
Yeah.
these guys, Frank Manizak, I was in awe of him. Just a very talented policeman. Had a way of talking to people that was incredible, and he was just very aggressive. He knew there was not too much that went past this guy. He was very quick. He knew what he was doing, and Joe Burgone, what can I say?
Yeah.
When Joe Burgone got promoted, I was in homicide with Joe as a detective, and then he got promoted. And a very smart thing, the department wasn't always real smart about what it did, but they left Joe in homicide, which was the smartest thing they could have done. And his first command was Frank Manizak and I. So did I have an opportunity to really learn a lot from some terrific people? These guys were the best.
And like you said, you don't want to admit anybody, so you don't want to keep
No,
naming names.
but these guys were the best.
But throughout that whole thing, I can remember guys like Joe Nickerson. Obviously, you mentioned him already.
Excellent investigator.
Joe Brower, I think you mentioned him earlier. Rick Trevor was down there.
Yep.
But yeah, that's just a bunch of great guys. And but you get one phone call every year. You can guarantee you get one phone call.
I do.
And what day is that? And who is it from?
Every Easter Sunday, I get a call from Joe Burgone. And I used to get it from Frank Manizak, but Frank passed away about a year ago, a little over a year ago. But Joe still calls me on Easter. In Easter Sunday of 1988, we all got called out from wherever we were having Easter dinner at to a case at Carter in the 5th District, Carter and Linton, I believe. Call came out for a man in a sewer. And it was a person who had been killed about 3 days earlier, and their body had been stuffed down a sewer. And we actually cleaned the case up with warrants and so forth. And Frank Manizak, with his sense of humor, dubbed it the Norton case because the guy was in a sewer.
Ed Norton.
So Joe Burgone will call me every
JJ
Easter to
doesn't know
remind
it.
me of the
JJ, you don't know what
Norton
he's
case, so I
talking
don't
about,
forget.
No, I don't.
Ed Norton from the Honeymooners.
Yeah.
He worked in the sewers.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good. I didn't know that.
I
knew Ed Norton was. Didn't know.
You were looking at me with that look. I don't know what they're talking about.
I felt like Jack for a minute.
Not the actor Edward Norton.
That's what I was thinking. Seriously.
Chris, I got to ask you. I want to ask Chris. You got in the police department. What was that your goal to get into homicide? Is that what you always wanted to do, or you just stumble in there, or did you get recruited like I got recruited to SWAT?
Here we go, JJ.
All about JJ.
No, seriously. Is that something you always
honestly,
wanted to
I think I kind of got recruited. I wasn't sure I was. And when I went, it's like I said, homicide to me is the most challenging position in police work,
right?
Bar none.
I agree.
I wouldn't
argue
you
that.
got an argument with that? I maybe sex crimes, just because of the nature. But it's the same kind of nature, right?
It's the same
the
kind.
same thing, yeah. But homicide is, and like I said, back in the day, and they still got tremendous investigators. We've had Dave Rudolph on and Dan Sweeney's on, and the list goes on, Tommy Walsh. But back then, those guys were like, all of them were like legends.
Yeah.
The guys that spent down there for a long time, and to be around those guys that's a pretty special career.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel privileged to have worked with so many good people.
And then we have two other cases that we talked to Chris about. But as always, when you come on this show, you're always going to come back. And we're going to save a couple of them stories. There's the Dinwiddie story, and there's one other one. But, enough's enough for one night, right?
Yeah, but we will have you back for that. But, Chris, it was
a pleasure.
An honor to have you on.
My
you
pleasure.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Okay,
Chris.
gentlemen.
All right.
My pleasure.
All right, Chris Pappas. He was good.
Good story.
He was good.
Crazy.
And I felt like I lived that more than a lot of people because I knew Emory and
That was a wild story back in the day.
Wild story. And Emory was he was tormented and he was bullied, but it didn't he didn't have to go and do all that.
Why you got to kill your brothers?
and your mom and dad and all that stuff. But Chris was on the scene, and
that's just it pay for his own flights, and
yeah, that
he
was
got
that
his
was
money back real
classic.
quick though. That's all right.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't know that you got a whole lot of policemen that are going to go. Yeah, you can have my credit card.
And Chris Pappas was Southwest Longhorn with you, producer John.
Yeah, a little bit before me, but
Yeah.
Hawk 2. Spit on that thing.
enough said.
Here we go. He can't get enough of it.
All right.
But as everybody knows, communities that support law enforcement are safer places to live.
Peace.
Amen.